Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Murray City Planning Commission meeting of March 3rd, 2022. Want to welcome the public and introduce the commissioners who are present. We have Lisa Milkevich, we have Jake Pearson, and we have Michael Richards, and I am Jeremy Lowry. Want to we have a smaller than normal commission group here today, but we do have a quorum. I would like to ask all to silence your cell phones. If you need to take a phone call, we'd like to ask you to go and take it in the hall during the meeting. We have a want to go through our agenda. So our first item is the approval of minutes from the meeting of February 17th, 2022. From there, we will go through and discuss any conflicts of interest. After that point, we will review the approval of findings or review the findings of fact for our meeting of February 17th, 2022 for M-Town Auto Elite Services and Waterstone Plan Unit Development. After which we will go through the conditional use permit for AK Granite, Dirty Devil Disposal, and Come and Go. This meeting is being recorded. All comments are on record. For those that are here, for both as applicants and the public, we welcome you, and we are excited to hear your comments. We would ask when you speak that you come to the podium to my right, near the north wall. We'd ask you to speak into the microphone. It may not sound like it's picking up your voice very well, but it is for the folks that are watching online and for the recording. We'd ask you to direct any comments to the chair and commission and not the audience, and or to an applicant, or if you're the applicant to any residents. We ask you to state your name and address for the record, and we would ask you to limit your time to 3 minutes. We have some public record. We have some comments that we'll enter into public record that are emails. We would ask those that shared emails, if you'd like that to be your public comment, to let that be your public comment, and if not, then we would refrain from reading those, and then you'd be free to make a public comment for 3 minutes, and we'll go from there. So at this point, we as a commission, we have reviewed the minutes from our meeting of February 17th, 2022. There were some very small grammatical errors that were corrected. Do we have a motion? I'll entertain a motion to a motion on those minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the February 17, 22 commission meeting.
We have a motion from Commissioner Lisa Milkevich. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Pearson, Jake Pearson seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Moving on to conflicts of interest, we have reviewed the applications. Are there any commissioners who have a conflict of interest in any of these circumstances?
No.
I do. I know Mr. Hinckley quite extensively, and I have let him know that I will not be able to render a decision. I would abstain and will abstain from his application. Unfortunately, because we only have 4 commissioners here, we will not have a quorum for his application for Dirty Devil Disposal, and he's agreed to allow that to move to our next meeting. Mr. Hinckley, I apologize for the inconvenience.
So I think that would need to be,
You'll need to,
you can either do it now or you can wait until that agenda item to move and table it.
I think in the interest of time, Mr. Hinckley's time, we should do it now so he can leave if he would like to.
Yep, just make sure in the motion when you table it to the next meeting, which would be March 17th.
March 17th, thank you very much. Okay. With that being said, is there a motion to table the conditional use permit for Dirty Devil Disposal?
I'll make a motion that we table item number 5, Dirty Devil Disposal, until the March 17th meeting.
Commissioner Pearson has made a motion to table item number 5, Dirty Devil Disposal, to our March 17th meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Very well. Commissioner Richards has seconded it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Sorry, Zach, I did it instead. I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. Technically, I think it needs to be, yes, it needs to be a roll call.
All right, so it's a roll call, but my apologies.
I will do it real quick.
Yep, sounds good.
Commissioner Pearson.
Yes.
Commissioner Richards.
Yes.
Commissioner Milkevich.
Yes.
And Chair Lowry.
Yes.
Perfect.
Mr. Hinckley, we appreciate you coming. If you'd like to leave, we understand. Thank you very much. Moving on to our approval of findings of fact for the applications for M-Town Auto Elite Services and Waterstone Plan Unit Development. We have reviewed. Is there a motion on the findings of fact?
I'll make a motion that we approve the findings of fact and conclusions for the Waterstone Planned Unit Development and the M-Town Auto Elite Services.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Pearson to approve the findings of fact for M-Town Auto Elite Services and Waterstone Plan Unit Development. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Very well. Second from Commissioner Milkevich. We can do a voice vote on this. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. It's passed. Okay, with that, we will move on to our conditional use permits. The first is number 4, which is AK Granite. Is the applicant here for this? Welcome. Thank you for being here. We have this will be presented by a member of our staff. Seth Rios is going to present this application.
So the applicant is seeking a conditional use for a granite countertop manufacturing business. So they're in an industrial park at 150 West, 4800 South, Unit 35. This one you can see here on the screen. The business would be just like it says. They'd be making granite. Well, they'd receive granite. They'd be cutting the granite stone and then making them into countertops and then transporting them to their clients' homes and installing them. The applicant said that they have 4 employees that will be working in this shop. Oh, I forgot to say, it's in the manufacturing general zone, like I said, in the industrial park there. Staff, well, this is the site plan that was provided, or the floor plan that's provided by the applicant of what the shop will look like. Really pretty basic. You just have the saw there. On the left side is where he stores his remnants. He'll have a trailer in there where he'll be storing what they cut. And then there's also an office, 2 offices, one that's a break room for the employees and one that's like for the owner to conduct his business. Pretty simple. So staff is recommending approval with certain conditions on this business. One of them is that they comply with the building and fire code standards. The next one is that they provide appropriate amount of parking, which is 4. This is because the applicant mentioned that he's had issues with some of the other people in the industrial park that take his spots. So we made it a condition that when he applies for his business license, he'll be able to provide like a statement from the owner saying that he's committed to providing him the 4 parking spaces and providing him continuous access. The next condition that we are recommending is that the stone not be allowed to be stored out in front of his shop. And then, yeah, the last one is just that he applies for a Murray City business license and pays the applicable fees.
Very good. Are there any questions from the commission for staff?
You know, I will have questions about parking, but I think I can wait and ask the applicant. I guess, though, one question that is kind of the same, but slightly different, that we kind of talked about but didn't talk about in the pre-meeting. Remnants, they're the same as the material, correct? So if I were to store material outside the building, the condition says you can't do that. So if we were storing the remnants in a trailer, can I store that outside the building? How does...
Well, like it shows on the site plan, they're currently stored on the inside. He keeps his trailer on the inside and he pulls it out every day to go empty it at the right spot.
So I'll confirm with him, but I'm just wondering if he's now required to bring the material that's currently outside into the building, will there still be room for the trailer? But I'll confirm with him, right?
I think technically he could keep this trailer out on there, even if it has material on it. It's technically on the trailer. That gets into weird legalese or whatever about what's really what.
I
Very
don't wanna-
philosophical question.
that's not my
is it really
intent.
there?
Is it
You know,
not?
no. So I think that if he ends up parking the trailer outside after hours, that would, be
Okay.
his prerogative, and it would be within his.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get philosophical or
No,
nitpicking.
you're
I'm
good.
just worried about parking.
Yeah.
And if we have two work trucks, a trailer that we're now using for storage and a parking spot.
Yeah.
And parking, we're underparked, but I don't know if we can get around that because the way the code's written, so.
Right. Exactly.
Any other questions for staff? No. Okay. Seth, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Arriaga, would you like to come and come and talk about your application? Right. Remind you to state your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Juan Arriaga,
Welcome.
and my address is 4800 South, 150 West, Unit 35 in Murray.
Very good.
And we provide granite countertops and cabinets.
Very good. Have you reviewed the 4 requirements?
Yes. I
Will
do.
you be able to comply with them?
Yeah.
Very good. We'll open it to any questions from the commission to the applicant. Unless, do you have anything else you'd like to share with the
No.
commission?
So, Mr. Arriaga, I apologize for slaughtering that. Talk to me about your parking. So currently, I'm just concerned about having space for your customers and your employees. So I think the application said you have 2 work trucks, you have 4 employees, and then that trailer. What are your thoughts? Will it work?
The thing is, I'm around mechanics and body shops, so they always take my spot. And I always had to fight with them to move the cars, and sometimes they apply with that, and sometimes they don't care.
I guess the answer to that concern is you can always call Murray if others aren't complying with their parking regulations.
I
But-
called the landlord, and she talked to them for a while. They listen for a week, 2 weeks, and then they go back and do the same thing.
So parking is going to be a concern at this site. I
Sounds
don't know if
like
there's anything we can do to address it right now, but
something to cite.
it is Scott Gordon, right? Well, I wish there was something we could do to make parking better.
Any other questions for the applicant? Great. Mr. Wright, anything else you want to add?
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll open up to any, please have a seat. We'll open up to any other public comment or on this application. Zach, did we receive any written or emailed correspondence on this? Very good.
Mr. Lowry,
Yes.
did we have another discussion about the drainage of water that we wanted to have
I think that it's
addressed?
I think that we should we can definitely have a discussion about that. I think that one of the concerns that was mentioned in the commission was the water drainage and the treatment of wastewater. However, it would be that falls under the Murray City Business Licensing Division and code enforcement. And so we would want to make you aware of that's something that is of concern for a business like this. Anything else you want to add to that?
I think that was all.
Did we open the public comment?
We have opened it. We're in it right now.
That
Yep.
just clarifies
I'm
that.
about ready to close it. Not seeing any other public comments. I think we're safe to close it unless there are further discussions from the commission. Okay, we can entertain a motion if there is one.
I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve the conditional use permit for a granite manufacturing and contractors business at 150 West, 4800 South, number 35, subject to conditions 1 through 4.
We have a motion to approve a conditional use permit for a granite manufacturing contractors business at 150 West, 4800 South, suite number 35, subject to the 4 conditions. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Very well. So seconded by Commissioner Richards.
Okay. Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich.
I have to just say I'm concerned about parking, but I understand in this setting there's nothing we're going to do about tonight. But still want to state it's a concern.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. And Chair Lowry.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Argyle, thank you for coming and for making your application and wish you success with your business. Thank you very much. It's approved. Moving on to, and again, for the record, we have tabled item number 5, Dirty Devil Disposal, until the March 17th Planning Commission meeting, and we're moving on to item number 6, which is the Come and Go gas station and convenience store located at 6029 South, 9th East. Is the applicant here? welcome. Okay. And Zach
Awesome.
Smallwood is presenting this.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, just getting all prepped. So this is item number 6, Come and Go. It's a conditional use permit application for a gas station and convenience store at 6029 South 9th East. As you can see, it's right there on the corner of pretty much where Vine picks back up and 9th East. It's currently used as a self-serve car wash. And Flowers on Vine is right there on the corner as well. It's a 1.07 acre site. They are proposing a 3,968 square foot building. It is in the CN zone, which allows convenience stores and fuel stations subject to obtaining a conditional use permit. So we'll go ahead and get started right into it. So parking for gasoline or fuel stations are required 1 to 200 square feet. It's basic retail is how we calculate it. So they need approximately 16 stalls. They are proposing 21. I will get into more of this a little bit later, but and you can't see it very well right here, but there are 2 parking stalls, one there and one there, that we are proposing that they remove due to the entrance on 9th East. It just feels a little too close. And then also, I think providing that open access to the proposed dumpster as well. So we are recommending that they remove those 2 stalls. So that would bring it down to 19 stalls, still over what they're required to have. So access, they are proposing 2 accesses on the site. The one on 9th East, which is right here, it's approximately 41 feet wide. This would be a right in, right out only. So people from 9th East would not be able to turn left into the Come and Go. There would be a hard median divider in there, so you can't get in there. They craft those really well. The north side, however, on Divine Street, where there currently is no access, they are proposing to place a bridge over Little Cottonwood Creek and have a full access. So that would allow for right in, right out, left in, left out.
Can I ask a question about
Please.
that while you're talking?
Yeah.
Currently, the road is double striped in the center on that road. So would it not be illegal for them to turn left into that
According
parking?
to Trey, they would be able to turn left. So I'll leave it up to him. Trey's the city engineer. So-
Maybe he has the intent of them restriping that section. I don't know.
Potentially. I'm not sure. That was all just redone. So I highly doubt they're going to restripe it, but I don't know. Technically we would allow for a full access there. So there was a traffic impact study conducted, 118 pages long. I provided the executive summary to you guys because 110 of those pages are just diagrams of models that are done. So in the executive summary, it was stated that no changes were recommended, that actually it would help 9th East go from that intersection going from a level F, I believe, up to a D. So having that would eliminate having that right in, right out would help that intersection quite a bit. Let's see. So we will move on to the building design. So staff didn't have any concerns here. It's a mix of hardy board. So this would be hardy board area with wood plank material as well. It's not actually wood, it's fiber cement board with metal accents on there. On the back, it's mostly the fiber cement board with not a lot of accents on the back there because you don't really need it. Same goes for the 2 sides. This would be the side that faces 9th East here. This would be the side that faces the east side of the property. And I just realized I didn't fix these pictures before I did this slideshow. This is the proposed canopy. actually, before I do that, let's go back to this. So the building itself is proposed to be 21 feet high. The zone allows for up to 35 feet. So they are well within their height restrictions there. And 21 is at the peak of this point here, which is on the northwest corner of the building.
Zach, what's the zoning right around there again? Is it R110?
R18.
It's R18.
Yep,
And what's the height limitation on a residential building?
35 feet.
Okay, so it's the same height.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. So it's not letting me edit these, but you get the general idea, and that it actually shows what I'm trying to point out anyway. So this is approximately 17 and a half feet tall for the canopy structure. In the staff report, I had called out that staff wants to see this specific sign be removed. It's a 3x6 illuminated can sign. It actually faces east, which I think would face directly into the neighboring property. So I've recommended that the Planning Commission make that go away, because I don't think it's needed, especially since it's right next to a single family home. So moving on to the landscaping plan. So the vine side, we were good with the calculations. They have an adequate amount of number of trees, shrubs, bushes. However, the 900 east side is missing some trees. I apologize. It's in my staff report. Let me think it was 4. I lied, 5. So 5 additional trees need to be placed on that 900 east side, and we can work with them during the building permit process to get those incorporated. I will commend them that they proactively placed, you can't see it very well in here, but these little guys these little guys right here are evergreen trees that they are proactively planting along that east side there that will help buffer that single family residence. Again, there are already well-established trees on that property to the east. So we feel pretty good about that. Let's see. Fencing, we'll get to the fencing side now. So the Planning Commission can permit up to an 8-foot fence, 8-foot tall fence of whatever material you decide. Staff is recommending that they be required to place the fence on the east side, as I believe the code calls out that can be allowed between residential and commercial properties. In the staff report specifically, I didn't state that we would require the south property have an 8-foot fence, but from some of the emailed comments I think that might be a good approach to take, is put the 8-foot on the south side as well. So we don't have any concerns with that either. So then we'll move on to the dumpster area. So our code technically states that a dumpster cannot be located between the street and the building. However, the Planning Commission may grant that in exceptions. So as you can see, they are proposing a dumpster between the building and the street. I believe we as staff believe this is the best option. So it's not placed next to the residential to the east. So we are willing to support that request by the applicant. Let's see. Okay, so a couple little things. Signage, as was stated in your staff report, they've proposed an 8-foot tall monument sign. I pulled this straight from the code. We only allow a maximum height of 6 feet, a 1-foot base with a 5-foot max sign area. So they'll need to cut that down. And it looks like they have enough space to kind of bring that down a little bit. So we're not concerned. I think they can make that happen. The rest of the proposed signage that was in the packet meets the code. So except for that one on the east side that I've recommended them take out. Next are the lighting plan. So we as staff, or the city requires that the any light pollution be eliminated to 0-foot candles at the property line. We saw significant lighting at the property line, up to, let's see, on the east side, I saw up to 1-foot candle. On the south side, I saw up to seven.
Can you define what 1-foot candle is and what 0 is?
That's great question. I can't really. I don't understand it 100%. I just know that it's really the 0. 0 means you're not having any light spill over from any light source into another property. So obviously, anything above that, we need to have an absolute 0 at the property lines. So that's typically downward facing down, so that there's not deflecting out.
And
So
inward facing towards the property, most
correct.
likely.
Yes. Yep. So that's what we require here as well.
Sorry, was that a condition or is that just a code?
The code requires it, and because they are showing that it is above that amount, it is in a condition that they work with us and provide a photometric plan that shows that they meet that 0-foot candle.
Okay.
I made a couple suggestions in there that they could use like bollard lighting, especially in the rear, to where it doesn't kind of spill over into properties.
Can I ask you a theoretical question, Zach?
Sure.
And we'll still be friends.
Am I going to question my life?
No, not that deep. So the lighting on the backside.
Yeah.
So one of the concerns with a facility like this is that people lingering back there at night or hanging out back in the back at night.
Sure.
And that's a concern for the community. And part of the way we try to discourage that is have lights back there. So by saying we want 0 at the fence line, are we allowing them to just take the lights out completely in the back? There's still
no.
some recommendations. They need lighting.
Yeah, they would need lighting back there. And I think for I'll let the applicant address this, but I would assume they would want lighting back there as well, because they don't want to see that either. Because this is technically how they get to, there's a door right here. This is how they get to
Employees.
the dumpster location. So they want that to feel safe for their employees as well. So there are ways of shielding that light. Like I believe Commissioner Lowry said that you can actually change that light to kind of hit the building, as opposed to just kind of out. So
Maybe potentially changing the bulbs or wattage as well or something like that, so it's not
exactly.
as
Yeah.
strong.
Yep.
Okay.
So, great. We'll move on to, we did send out 55 public notices of the meeting for tonight. The planning division, as of right now, I just checked the email just a moment ago. We've received 10 emails from 7 different property owners. There was also 1 phone call where staff spoke to the property owner nearby. So I summarized largely what the concerns were. We will read those into the record at the beginning of the public comment portion. But to summarize largely, the citizens had emailed concerning property values, traffic, environmental, considering tank leaking and gas leakage, lights, and potential crime in the area. So I'm just going to go over a couple of those just really briefly real quick. So regarding property values, typically we see there's been a lot of empirical evidence that shows that when people reinvest in their properties, regardless of it being commercial or residential, that it typically brings up property values across the board. So we don't anticipate that will be affected. The housing market in Utah is very strong at the moment. I don't anticipate that changing. That's not expected to go down anytime soon. Traffic, this is a service use. This, how I wrote it down, is a service use. So it's not specifically a destination. People aren't, hanging out in Midvale and saying, "Oh, I want to go to the Come and Go in Murray." It's primarily people are going to use this facility if they're already traveling on 9th East. So we don't anticipate additional large impact from that. It just, I don't see that happening. Environmental, this was reviewed by all city departments, including the water department, the wastewater department, city engineer, police, fire. I don't think I've left anybody out. And all of their concerns were addressed in your staff report. And a lot of those were considered in the conditions of approval, especially the city engineer, specifically regarding the state requirements, that there are state and I believe county requirements that need to be addressed in getting those tanks. Do you want me to speak to the what you had just mentioned in the pre-meeting about the stormwater thing? Yeah, do you want to do that? Would you mind? Yeah, just I'll let Danny speak just quickly to those environmental things that that we kind of talked about in our pre-meeting. Just for the record, Danny Astle is the Public Works Director and interim Community Development Director.
Yeah, that's fine. So, you know, to speaking to the question about the environmental questions in regards to the underground storage tanks, and so there are limitations, and one of the things that the county has as part of they have a setback requirement from the river, and that's really about the limit to what they do. But the state controls really stiffly the underground storage tank program. So all of these, anything that goes in, whether it's replaced or brand new, has to meet these new regulations, and they're pretty onerous, and they're, you know, double-walled tanks and double-lined lines going from the pump to the supply, the pump shutoffs, emergency shutoffs, and things like that. They also require regular testing of those tanks as well. But the other things that you know that the city looked at, and wastewater and stormwater, are those very things. What's going to happen with the stormwater? And anytime we deal with things like this, when there's a water source close by, obviously the river that could immediately go to the river. There are storm drain requirements. Water has to be contained on the site for a short time, and if a spill does happen, it's not going to get to the river. There are those types of things already in place. But in addition to that, it's in a well protection zone, a wellhead protection zone. Murray owns a well just a little bit east of that. And so there's a little bit more requirements in there that require welded pipe, so that there's no joints in the pipe, so that nothing can leak out, either the sewer or the stormwater, so it can't contaminate the site as well. So there's lots of things that have gone through this. This has been vetted quite significantly. Do you have any? Did that answer the questions?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. So I'll keep going on. So the lights, like I said, we kind of addressed that just a couple sections back. We were concerned about that, and we would require the applicant to work with us to bring something forward that works. And lastly, crime. So this will actually be more of an active use than what was previously there, which was a self-serve car wash. There will be employees on site being able to monitor and see what's going on. I anticipate, I can't speak for the applicant, but I anticipate they're probably going to have some sort of camera, at least on the back, so that they can monitor and make sure people aren't just loitering and hanging out back there. So I feel like the safety thing it'll actually be a little bit safer. It'll be well lit, but not overly lit. So we'll make sure we clarify that. There'll be an active employee there almost constantly. So with that, I thought I was going to have to talk about the site some more. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and grant the design approval to allow the construction of the Come and Go gas station at 6029 South 900 East, subject to the conditions in your staff report.
Thank you for your report.
Questions?
Are there questions for staff from the commission? You'll have a mini. There'll be, yes. So if you remember, our agenda is the staff presents, and then the planning commission will ask questions. At that point, we will turn the time over to the applicant, and then public comment will be after that. So yes, you'll all have time. Does the commission have any questions for staff at this point?
Do you know, I could ask this to the applicant, but the canopy and the light you're recommending, or the sign you're recommending they take down,
Mhm.
the sign was lit, is the canopy lit on the side? Do you know that?
Let's take a look.
Or I can wait. And
I would assume not. I mean, they probably have downward directing lights to light the pumps themselves, but I wouldn't assume the actual canopy itself is lit. But that is definitely a question. We can actually probably answer that with this guy right here. Actually, that's not going to tell me, because that's going to tell me overhead lighting.
Either way, the light would be mitigated by the condition that you put in there for the zero light, whatever that term,
Foot
whatever
candle.
that term is
Foot
at the
candle.
property line.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
My thought or question was very similar, because I was thinking by removing that sign or mitigating the issue, but I guess is that sign one of the signs that would have to apply for a permit for signage? Does that
Yes.
fall in that category?
Yeah. I just included it as part of this review for design review anyway. But yes, they do have to get a building permit to install signs.
I guess you recommended that we put a condition on as removing that sign.
Mhm.
If having that sign on there and it still falls below the zero candle, whatever they
Mhm.
are, then
Yeah.
is that even necessary?
Maybe not,
Well, know
but
some
I
won't
mean
be
that it's just
necessary
it.
anyway, that's what I'm saying, right?
I'm trying to think of of the neighbor next door. I wouldn't necessarily want a light right there.
Yeah.
I don't really think it
Regardless.
serves a purpose. It's not hindering the applicant.
Right. I don't honestly see, as you're driving west, that you'll actually see that sign through the trees.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying is I don't think they'll be able to put it there no matter what, because
Possibly.
we already have a condition. I guess we could clarify and
Yeah,
just have it.
possibly.
remove it.
Yeah.
Are there other questions from the commission? Zach, I would one of the topics we addressed in our pre-meeting was the state statute regarding permitted conditional uses and a planning commission's role. And would you mind summarizing?
Definitely. So I'll give the medium answer. So in zoning, there are 3 types of uses. There are not permitted uses, which means they're just not allowed in the zone. There are permitted uses, which means they don't need to come to you as a body. They are just allowed to go in, apply for business licensing, do whatever they want. Like a restaurant along State Street doesn't need to come to you guys every single time.
Within the statute.
Yes.
There
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the third one, which is why we're here tonight, is called conditional uses. The state has mandated that conditional uses, that the Planning Commission must approve a conditional use if the reasonable application of conditions would mitigate potential impacts. So that's pretty much it. So your role as the Planning Commission is to make sure that they are meeting that the impacts that we've kind of laid out, through conditions are being met reasonably. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I just want to clarify with a question, but basically we have determined that a gas station may have impacts,
Mhm.
and that's why we've made it conditional use. And our job now is to try to mitigate those impacts, not necessarily determine if we want a gas station here.
Not
or
remove impacts
Right,
or the use. Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
There aren't any more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll invite the applicant to come forward and to, if they have a presentation, and to speak to the commission. I would ask you to state your name and your address for the record.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm Christian Michelson with Galloway and Company, and I'm representing Come and Go tonight at this hearing. I want to thank Zach and all the staff. We've done a lot of coordination with them and tried to do exactly what Zach has has explained here tonight in mitigating any negative impacts that the store might have in coming to Murray. Come and Go's really excited to be part of the Murray community, and this will be one of the first stores that they're launching in Utah. So most people in Utah aren't familiar with the product that they have, but the Come and Go is owned by the Kraus family, and it is a family-owned business. These are all corporately owned stores. They're not franchised, and so they're well maintained and well kept and well lit, and all the equipment is kept up to standard, and it's a very, very professional operation. I think I actually wasn't familiar with it either until we started representing these guys, and I went and toured a bunch of their stores over in Colorado and was really impressed with the operation that they have and the way that they conduct their stores and perform. Don't have a big presentation to give you tonight, but I do want to say that Come and Go is an amazing community partner. I think you'll find that that they're pretty awesome to have in your town. They do give 10% of their profits back to nonprofit organizations within the community, and they do a lot of community outreach things. They actually have a food give back program that they do. So when food doesn't meet their standard, which is extraordinarily high, they'll actually take those and give them to local food pantries. And it's still really good food, but they just don't want it to go to waste. And they do a lot of really cool things within the community partners that they have. I guess a couple of other things to mention is that the state requires that they have an A, B, and a C operator. And they always do have an A, B, and a C operator for underground storage tanks. And so most of their employees are certified as C operators, and the B operators are the managers, and then their A operators are subcontracted. Like Seneca is a company that they work with, and they're professional fuel tank and system installers, and they deal with these systems all over the country. So all of the systems that they install will be installed to meet all the federal, state, and local guidelines. I know some of these questions come up, and I just want to say that I think the staff's done a really good job of giving you information. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have, and so just want to thank you for your time.
Before we get to the questions, I don't believe we got your address. You can feel free to enter your corporate address.
My apologies. Yeah, it's 172 North East Promontory, Suite 274.
Very good. Have you and the applicant reviewed the currently 15 conditions?
Yes, we have.
Would you be able to comply with those?
Yeah.
I'll open up to questions from the commission. For the applicant.
I think the only question I have is, we talked about adding a condition for the 8-foot masonry fence along the east and south line. Would that be okay?
Yeah, we're willing to comply with that condition, and we're happy to do that. We think that will help limit the light bleed. It'll also affect a lot of the safety concerns that I think, frankly, exist right now. And I think that it'll make the site better, safer, and more pleasant all around.
I have to ask for clarification. Are we discussing the fence line for the east side only, or the east and the south? In the report, it says it doesn't seem to require any fence line along the south side. We recommended, well, we haven't really discussed it, but in the report we talked about the east side.
I would propose there would be a 16th condition, which would be an 8-foot masonry fence on the east and south side of the property.
Is the south side residential or commercial?
It's commercial.
Commercial.
So I think we have a condition 14 that already talks about that. I think we could just add south side to that condition.
Yep, that's right.
Right.
Very good idea.
And wasn't that a recommendation,
From
Zach,
staff.
the south side? You encouraged it, yes. Okay.
So then just so the south side approaches 9th East, so there will be a vision issue with coming in and out of the parking lot. So there's setbacks required with a fence line, right? Okay.
To the extent that UDOT will allow us to do that and we can comply with the code, I think, you know, the indications from the owner, my client, are that they're open to that.
Can you talk about the applicant's environmental, their operations in terms of how often they do inspections, how often the A, the B, and the C's are doing that, and what their cadence is for that?
That's really not my area of expertise. I'm a civil engineer, and so I design civil stuff, and so, but we could certainly provide you with that information, and they're absolutely meeting all of the requirements that for inspections, testing, et cetera, that is required of those ABC UST operators.
Mm-hmm.
So their compliance operation is significant.
Go ahead.
And Mr. Lowry, for the clarification, our business licensing department would not approve their license if they hadn't met at least the minimal standards required. Is that correct?
Correct. Love to know they're going above and beyond. But are there any other questions from the commission?
The only other question I had was the sign on the east side of the canopy. Would you be okay
That's
with doing
fine.
that? Okay.
Yeah, we're fine with eliminating that. Not a problem.
I think that my concerns with this, and Zach kind of mentioned that whether we like the idea of a gas station there or not is a little bit immaterial. But for me, my biggest concerns are environmental. Speaking personally, are the environmental and then the lighting concerns. And I want to emphasize the zero candle that's emissions that's expected on the neighboring properties. I've seen in other developments where you actually will point the lights away, those exterior lights away from the neighborhood. To act as a barrier, and you actually you can get a zero candle on that fence. That to me, that's something that's of critical importance. I like I said, whether as personally I love the gas station use or not, the impact from an environmental standpoint to me is very important for this area, and also the light the light pollution, frankly, that could go over to neighbors is of paramount importance to me personally.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate those concerns. And I mean, Come and Go's owner of over 400 stores and developing more every day. So obviously we hear this concern a lot, and we completely understand. So something important to understand is that all of the lighting on site is downcast lighting. Mm-hmm. So we're not throwing light horizontally, very much on purpose. And all of the lights on the building are shrouded. And so what you're seeing there, and Galloway does the photometrics plans for Come and Go for Utah. And so we're happy to rearrange those until we meet the standard. You kind of asked about what a foot candle is. I mean, it's literally the amount of light a foot away from a burning candle.
Yep.
And so it's not a lot of light. In fact, I've heard a lot of people describe it as essentially what kind of light you would get on the ground on a moonlit night, mm-hmm. right? It's pretty low amount of light.
Yep. We like zero in residential areas,
right,
from commercial.
And so that is good, and we're happy to work with the staff in order to achieve that. We do want to have a safe site. Mm-hmm. We want to have it be safe for the employees. We want to have it be safe for the customers. Safety and security is a top priority for Come and Go. Part of what's happening underneath canopies is that you're doing financial transactions. People have their credit cards out. And so we want to make sure that they're able to see what they're doing, and they're also, they're dispensing gasoline. We want to make sure that they have adequate light to be able to do that. And so that's a big priority for us.
I understand. I think that and it may be a little more expensive, but I think that you can accomplish both your safety requirements and also hit the zero candlelight emissions as well.
Agreed.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Sorry,
No, you're fine.
So I had one thought. And we talked about this a bit in the pre-meeting, but I don't know if in other operations that Come and Go has, and this was spoken to by some of the residents who provided feedback, the issue of home values in terms of putting a gas station near their homes. Is there anything that you can speak to in other places where that has actually, I think the discussion we had was that it actually will help the home value. And so I wondered if you could speak to that and affirm that in any way.
I really don't have anything more to add to what Zach said. I think that's generally true. And I don't really, I can't say anything beyond what he said. He said it well. If I may, 1 second.
Yeah, please.
There was a question about cameras and safety on the building. There will be cameras in the back of the building, and cameras inside, 360-degree cameras, and so that will all be monitored. There won't be people camping out back there or loitering or anything like that. In fact, I swung by the site on the way here, and I would say that condition's probably going to be a dramatic improvement.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate all the discussion. I had two more other
Please.
thoughts about environmental concerns. Appreciate the discussion we've had. We haven't touched base on the bridge over the river. And I just want to discuss that for a second. Condition number 8 addresses it. And I guess you're good with that. And is there any further thoughts you have on how you're protecting our river with building that bridge?
Yeah, so Trey Stokes and I have been dialoguing on that. It'll be a pile-supported bridge, and it will be pre-manufactured, so it'll go in quickly. It's all pre-designed and then kind of delivered to the site. So that's how we propose to do that. We're going to completely span the existing channel there, so there won't be any negative influence on that channel. Also went and looked at that tonight, which I was amazed. It's almost dry. It's crazy. But yeah, we were planning on submitting to Salt Lake County Flood Control, and obviously to the city as well.
Very good.
And then my one other thought was traffic. We haven't discussed that too much. Like specifically, Vine Street, we're permitting you to put an entrance there on Vine Street that has right in and left in, but with the caveat that we could come back and restrict it in the future if there's traffic issues there. And I just thought it's worth stating that and stating that we're trying to address the traffic needs, and if there's any other thoughts or discussion around it.
Yeah, we're obviously sensitive to the traffic around the site. One thing I would like to point out is that, as Zach mentioned, convenience stores and fueling stations are really not trip generators. They're just trip absorbers. People are stopping by on their way someplace else. Very, very few trip generations come from the construction of a fueling station. So it's probably not going to add much traffic, if any. I do feel like the right-in, right-out situation on 9th East is going to be a big improvement in safety over the dual entrances, especially with the proximity of the north entrance to that intersection beyond what's already there. As far as 9th or Vine Street goes, the left in, left out isn't essential to our operation. So we fully plan on being able to function without that. I think that time will tell, essentially. I think people tend to learn traffic patterns and learn how they respond. What's safe at noon might not be safe at 8:30 in the morning, right? And so a lot of the decisions we make as drivers is left to our discretion. Is this safe right now, or is this not safe right now? Conditions affect what's okay and what's not okay. And so there's a lot of analysis in the TIS, obviously. And so I would say maybe just refer you to that, but we're fully prepared to function without the left in, left out.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Very good. We'll thank you for your time. We'll likely there'll be some items to address from the upcoming public comments, I'm imagining. So
sounds good. Will I get a chance to address those if
Yes, you
needed?
will.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Zach, I think what might be good out of the respect for the folks that are here is to allow those that are here, if they've made a comment, we want to let you know if you've made a comment, we would not read your comment that if you want to come and make a verbal comment. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up. We've received several emails and written correspondence making public comment. We have several members of the community which we're excited to hear your comments. What we will not do is so you can't come and make a verbal comment and then have your written comment read into the record as well. So we'd ask you to choose if you would like to, if you'd like to make a verbal comment. We welcome that. We ask you to try to keep it to 3 minutes if you can. If you would prefer to have your written comment read into then please, you don't need to come to the podium, and we will read them in at the end of the public comments. So at this point, I'd like to open it to public comments. Again, I'd like to ask you to come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name and your address for the record, and do your best to keep the comments to 3 minutes. So we'll open it up. Please.
My name is Kay Han, and I live in 6053 South Bridges Lane. I have a question and a comment. The first, and the project has a canopy light, says candlelight, but the canopy light is 150 watt LED lights. That's a 20,000 lumen. It's really bright, and it's even like a 20 LED light is a 150 the regular light, that strong. So if it's a corporation and they're gonna be on in the lights on for 24 hours, and I believe the neighbor that it's a residential gonna have problem with the night life. The second one that I wanna ask the developer, how do they gonna evaporate those evaporate gas in the tank? When they deliver, they have to release the evaporate gas filled the empty tank. They need to release it. And I want to know how do they gonna do it, because sometimes they have to make a pipe and release it, or they just collect everything into the delivery tank and release the new fuel in the tank. I'm an owner of the gas station, so I know how it's going, but the problem is leaking tank, or that's not the problem, because that one is really protected. But what I'm saying is the evaporate gas is releasing, and that neighbor's gonna smell the gas every day, all day. And so I think I need to know that, how do they gonna release those evaporate gas from the tank, and the canopy lights, and how long they're gonna turn it on, because even they just, the turn the part of it, it's just still gonna bother the neighbors. I don't live that right by it, but I just concerned that lights, because in my experience, I had a gas station, one on 39th, and the apartment in the back, and they always complain that my lights on, so I turn it off because it's a private owned. But that's a company owned, and I don't think they can, so they have to be light on. And plus the canopy, the side always have a light, and that's just like a design of it. And I never seen the canopy the side doesn't have a light. So that's what I want to tell.
We appreciate your comments and questions. We'll as we mentioned, the applicant will have the opportunity to answer all the questions at the end of the
Okay.
public comments. So thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Do I have one more minute?
Sure.
Sorry. Okay, so even that there is no leakage or anything, when they deliver the gas, the driver always spills all over the parking. I mean the ground. And plus, as a customer, and I even sometimes like get spilled a little bit because, you know, it's a fueling and that happens most of the time. But all those is accumulated in like, 10 years, 20 years, and it's going to accumulate, it's going to contaminate the soil and the rainwaters and whatever the clean the parking lot. It's going to, affect the stream. My pretty creek's going to be contaminated little by little because my the property that I got rid of, I grounded up. I just make it right now. I'm trying to build a retail for that corner, but when I did the phase 2, the test, so that's a soil test. Even my property, not even my property, it's across the street corner they find it out that the residual of the fuel. So that's my another concern, that if that comes to our property, and I don't want to, that's my dream house and I don't want to ruin it. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Brittany Noble. I'm probably the second closest house to where
Will you
this
say
will be.
your address? I'm sorry. I don't
Yes,
know.
it's 953 East Bridges Court. And I will just read basically my email and make a couple points off of that. So just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to us and having this meeting. What I would like to ask is how many people in this room would like to have a gas station put right next to their house? Because that's what's about to happen to me. Please go ahead and raise your hand, knowing that it will decrease your home value, because that's what most studies say is about 16% on average, regardless of what other people in the room have said. The 24-hour canopy lighting blaring in your window while you're trying to sleep at night, and the clientele that it will more than likely bring, making you feel that it's not safe for your kids to play right over the fence in your backyard. We all understand that the properties along 9th East have been zoned commercial, but you have to understand that when we all moved in, they were all used as residential, aside from the car wash that's always been there and the quiet yoga studio just aside from my fence. My question would be, what kinds of studies have been done to support this? There are already so many accidents at the corner of 9th East. Just last night, we had a car flip over and everybody had to go through the 7-Eleven parking lot to get home. Can it really handle even more traffic through here? All of the U-turns trying to get into this gas station, that's what would happen. Has a traffic study been done? I guess we heard that it has, but to figure out what's going to happen, it doesn't seem like an easy area to get in and out of, really. And we know that people will turn left trying to get in. Also, what kind of environmental studies have been done? The gasoline will run off into the creek. With the crime, traffic accidents, environmental issues, and value that we will lose in our homes, I would wonder why this would even be considered. Thank you for listening. Just a couple of things I wanted to add is that gas stations really aren't supposed to be put in within 500 feet of homes because of the fumes that we're all going to be breathing in. And there has been a board member or somebody in affiliation with the board that had Nan's property that was sold about 6 months ago, and she didn't have any information about this. So my question is, why would she have sold this property other than she knew that her property was going to go down in value? So regardless of saying that they're not going to go down in value, well, obviously she felt like it was. So thank you for listening.
You're coming.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Do you have a citation for the 500 feet from a home? A reference?
Will you come back to the podium so the folks that are online can hear you as you read this into record?
Yeah, I'll have to find it for you, but
Okay.
yes, I will.
All right, we'll get you back. Any other public comments? Please.
name is Sterling Hansen, 6067 Bridges Lane. I'm the president of the HOA there, and I sent an email, so I'm kind of double doing it here. So
Great.
get my email. It's got a lot of bullet points.
I read it.
And there's a few other things that came to my attention as we were sitting here that I wanted to add on. Mark Noble, her husband, actually got that 500-foot notation from the mayor. He was speaking to the mayor today, and isn't that correct?
Oh, actually, it was from eaglemountains.com.
Oh.
We were talking to the mayor about it.
Okay. So that's something to explore, obviously. And I'm sure, I mean, if you had a gas station proposed to be built right next to you, you'd probably feel the same way that we do. The fence that they're proposing on the east side, I'd like to know what kind of fence. They say it's masonry. Is it cinder block? I mean, is it going to be nice looking? I'd like to know the details on that. And I'd like, if it goes in, I'd like it to go higher than 8 foot. I mean, I think the higher the better. And then, sorry, these are just kind of disjointed comments, but and then why is this public meeting taking place so far down the road? I mean, shouldn't this be happening before they're ready to build? I mean, and by the way, I didn't even receive a letter. It says that you said like 56 letters went out, but I didn't get one, and I don't know why. Did you just randomly send to whoever you felt was appropriate? I mean, how does that process work? They talked a lot about shielding the light, but you can't shield it 100%. I mean, light will go over things, and of course you can't shield odor, which we've talked about. Odor is a big deal, and nobody wants to smell gasoline. They talked about a 21 lot parking. That's a lot of parking. I mean, most little convenience stores that I've seen on corners, maybe 5 or 6 or 7. 21, we're talking about a pretty big gas station here, and that's going to increase the traffic. And speaking of traffic, going across on Vine, that bridge that they're proposing is going to be really close to the intersection. I see that as a super hazardous situation. So I don't know how that got approved. Okay, those are the main things I wanted to bring to your attention. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Please, yeah.
I sent an email as well, so I'll keep this very brief. I apologize. It's just something that came up
You're
as we
good.
were discussing.
What's your name and your address?
Kimberly Furness, and my address is 959 East Bridges Court. And you'll excuse me, I hate public speaking, so I get jittery.
You're doing great.
So if you come out of our neighborhood and you go a couple blocks to the north, you hit a 7-Eleven gas station. And before that, on the west side there, you hit a massive Macy's grocery store. If you come out of come out onto 9th East and go south, you hit a gas station a couple blocks that way, right there before you get to the freeway. If you just cross our street, just walk across 9th East, you hit a 7-Eleven. And if you were to turn and go east behind us, you will hit a gas station at the end of that street. So we are literally surrounded by convenience stores and gas stations. I have no idea why Murray needs another one right there. It's great that they give to the community, but those of us that live the closest, we're not considered actual Murray. We don't get Murray power. We don't get Murray garbage pickup. We do that through Salt Lake County. So we're in Murray, but we're not Murray. I've been told we're annexed Murray. So this is going to affect us but we will see no benefits of the Murray City charitable donations, et cetera. So again, we're surrounded by gas stations. Why do we need another one right there? And it does sound pretty huge if they need that many parking spots. And there's that big grocery store, that Macy's, that has plenty of parking and shopping and whatnot. And also the 7-Eleven that's across from us, it had gas pumps when we moved in. There were 2 or 3 gas pumps there, and they took them out. And it did smell like gas. It smelled like gas when they fueled up. smelled like gas during the summer when it gets so hot. It did cause traffic and problems. They took the pumps out and everybody appreciated it very much. So to put them even closer to us now kind of blows my mind. And also with what was mentioned about contaminating the soil, that's the type of thing that if it does seep into the soil, not from leakage, but from people spilling, people are going to spill gas. We're not all as competent as we like to think. That's the type of thing that will affect our soil, and we won't know for 10 or 15 years. So those of us growing vegetable gardens, there are only a handful of kids that live in the neighborhood, but there are enough that I don't want to feed my kids poison vegetables and not know it until they're 18, you know? And yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
comments. We appreciate them.
My name is Nan Wan Mortensen. My address is 6051 South 900 East, which is next to the car wash right now. And I bought it in September, but I didn't know anything about gas station. And until it's closed, everything done, and then I heard something, but it kind of too late. And then in that property, we do a spa, like, and as an owner, I turned down a lot of turning because I want to keep that area quiet, not too traffic, because we have limited parking. And I'm sorry. And then when I heard that they're not allowed to turn left, which is going to affect my parking area, because we're afraid that people are going to, we're going to turn to our parking and then walk to the convenience of gas station. And we have limited parking already, and we don't want any surprise. And sometimes people turn to our parking and then they cannot go around, so they have to go back. So we try to keep it more peaceful, because we have like a personal fitness one-on-one, so it's not that many people there, and we have a peaceful spa, and we try to keep our place like a calm and peaceful environment, like a health issue. But so I don't know, I'm kind of overwhelmed when I heard about this. So just thank you.
Thank you for your time. Are there any additional public comments? In that case, Zach, I think it would be appropriate to read in the public comments that have not, for folks that are not in the meeting today, at this time.
Okay. So, first one, so just as a caveat, I am reading these in order of receipt. So, first one was from March 1st, and we'll go through the most recent one that I had. So they're not in any particular order except that. This is from Rex Wheeler at 6061 Bridges Lane. Dear Commission, I live in the small subdivision adjacent to the proposed project. I am not in opposition to this. It will probably be a nicer property after the development. I would only ask that a block fence at least 8 feet high be built against our subdivision property. Thank you. Okay, next is from Diane Dykeman. I apologize if I said that wrong. Doesn't give an address. To whom it may concern, my property is within 300 feet of this proposed fuel station and convenience store. As a matter of fact, I will have a bird's eye view of this business, as my property abuts this business on the west side of my property. I am against approval of the fuel station and convenience store for the following reasons. A commercial property with high flow traffic can be seen from my front door and thus will devalue my property value. Increased traffic with the concern for increased theft and crime. I am a single woman and purchased this home 7 years ago because it was a gated community. The current HOA fencing, which is on the west side of my property, height is too low and will not deter from jumping the fence and committing crime. My environmental peace and comfort will be negatively impacted due to increased traffic in the area. If the following fuel station and convenience store is approved, I would ask the council to require Galloway and Company to replace the existing fence with the same type of fence but substantially higher, so residents don't have to see the approved property. Thank you for your consideration, Diane Dykeman. Okay, never mind. Brittany spoke. So this one was actually from a commissioner. This is from Travis Ney. He is on the Planning Commission. This was in response to Brittany's emails, Brittany Noble's emails.
It may not be a bad idea to read Ms. Noble's email into the record
Okay.
as Travis does respond to it.
Sure. Okay. The first email. So I will read the first email that was put in. So I am emailing in regards to the board meeting Thursday night. I have several concerns, but frankly, from what I have heard, this is already a done deal. So what is this meeting really about? My first concern is that apparently Mrs. Wilson, who owned the property right next door to the gas station, was able to sell her property before this transaction, thus not losing any equity. I have heard she is on the board or has some relations with the city, so of course we have to start to wonder why this deal was really approved in the first place. Second, why in the world would a gas station be approved so close to a creek? Was an environmental evaluation done before this was approved? This is almost unheard of. Talk about a contamination issue. Lastly, a wall of 8 feet is required separating businesses from residential communities. This needs to be enforced, and it would need to, of course, be concrete. Lastly, thank you so much for giving thought and concern to the loss of equity that our homes in this community with lose based on this decision. I hope all your decisions think about the individual impacts on residents living in the city and not just taxes one more business will bring in. With respect, Mark and Brittany Noble. So now I'll move on to the commissioner's statement. My family, so Travis Ney, he didn't give his address. My fellow planning commissioners, I will not be in attendance this evening, but as I live 4 houses away from this project, I'd like to express my support. The river is hard panned in concrete on 3 sides as it flows towards the intersection of Vine, 5900 South, and 9th East. Adding an entrance on Vine will do little to nothing to add to the traffic that already exists at this intersection. While there is always an environmental risk with projects like this, the likelihood of contamination into the river is lessened by the existing hard pan of the stream. The neighborhood to the east of the project is currently adjacent to the car wash. This car wash frequently has suspect vehicles and pedestrians on site at all hours of the day. It is my belief this will improve the overall site and add more eyes looking out for each other. Additionally, I do not question the integrity of former Commissioner Wilson. There are many conditions that have contributed to selling the property. If she did in fact sell her property, there is nothing to suggest she had any information that would have contributed to moving this project forward in the city. Private property transactions are between private property owners. Thank you, Travis Ney. Okay, so I will move on to Doreen Hansen. Doesn't give an address. To the Murray City Planning Commission. We and a number of our neighbors are opposed to the plan to put a new office fuel station and convenience store on the property addressed as 6029 South 900 East. The proposed property has a large creek frontage, and any spills during delivery would contaminate the creek waterway. In addition, customers often spill gas at the pump and sometimes overfill their tanks of the cars or gas containers, again causing spills. The spilled gasoline will be on the ground, which will then wash into the creek every time it rains, creating negative environmental impact to the creek and its immediate surroundings, as well as continuing downstream as the creek flows. There is also a possibility of the ground tanks themselves leaking. There's no need for a gas station at that location because there are already 2 different gas stations available in close proximity, one which is about half a mile east and another which is about 2/3 of a mile south along 900 East. Homes back up directly to the proposed property, and this would negatively impact the homes and the entire neighborhood with increased crime, noise, and lights. Each time there is a gas delivery, there will be a release of gas fumes from the ground tank so that the driver can fill up the tank. This should not be permitted in such close proximity to a residential neighborhood. Thank you for consideration, Doreen Hansen. This is from, I want to say it's a Holly Warren. The email says Scott Warren, so but it's signed Holly, so I'm assuming it's Holly Warren. We are against the new gas station plan, proposed convenience store 6029 South 900 East. Please do not move forward. We do not want or need it in the area. Thank you. This is by Marissa de Gloria. I am against the proposed 6029 South 900 East convenience store. And then this was from Nick Furness. Originally, we had received an email from Nick and his wife, but since we still have Nick's, I'm going to read this one into the record as well. Dear Planning Commission, I am writing you to ask that you please put a stop to the proposed fuel station that would be built on the property at 6029 South 900 East. I am a resident in the small neighborhood that backs that property to the east. Currently, the property is occupied by a car wash and a flower shop. The car wash is not ideal, but thus far has not presented a huge problem because it is not open all hours and it is not particularly busy. A fuel station, however, would be the opposite. I am extremely concerned that a fuel station and market in that location would be detrimental to our neighborhood for a number of reasons. First, a gas station and market are likely to have very early and late hours that will have people coming and going constantly. The nature of such a place will have people loitering at all hours and very possibly not the kind of people I would want right behind my back fence. I have 2 small children who play near that fence year-round. The thought of someone being able to hop the fence and access them or even talk with them over the fence is very concerning. Even if someone were to toss something over the fence like empty alcohol containers or cigarette butts, cigarette butts, that is something my kids and their friends could easily find. I understand that kids can come into contact with those things in any environment, but I would like to think that they are safe and protected in our own yard and the yard of our close neighbors. Our community is a small one with only 11 homes, and though we border a somewhat busy road, the gate we have to our neighborhood helps me feel okay about my kids playing outside without me there to watch. If a fuel station were to border us to the west, it would defeat the point of our gate in that people could easily access our neighborhood as I've described. Another issue I have with the fuel station is the environmental impact it may have. It is almost guaranteed that gasoline will be spilled by patrons and the fuel trucks, posing a hazard to the surrounding creek as well as a fire hazard. I am shocked that fuel pumps are allowed to be so close to residents' homes. I hate to think of the vapors drifting into our yards throughout the hot summer when we are barbecuing or playing with our families outside. Yet another concern I have is for the traffic that a fuel station and market would attract. The intersection at 60th South and 900 East is notoriously dangerous. A number of accidents happen there every week. My wife was hit in her car in that very intersection. The speed limit for that street is 45 miles per hour. If people pulling onto and off of the street to access the fuel station there will most definitely be accidents. Many will be turning left from the south to access it, increasing the risk for accidents both with the cars and with pedestrians using the sidewalk. The pickup location for the school bus that takes our neighborhood kids to Bonneville Junior High is right in front of the proposed fuel station location. It is close enough the kids can walk to it themselves if the weather is good. If there were to be a fuel station there, I personally would not feel comfortable letting my child wait for this school bus anywhere nearby. If the pickup location is moved because of the fuel station, that would be disappointing. Lastly, I have to say the name of the proposed fuel station is just awful. It is suggestive and unnecessary. I would much rather tell people to turn at the flower shop to access our neighborhood rather than the come and go. Please consider the long-term effects this build could have on our neighborhood and this part of Murray. We currently have the 7-Eleven across the street, and there are gas stations 1 block south, north, and east. Every other gas station I have seen near neighborhoods has a buffer of some kind between them and a neighborhood. This would literally be in my neighbor's backyard. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Nick Furness, 959 East Bridges Court. And that is it.
Great. Please stay where you are. That's okay. There were several questions that I think were addressed a little bit towards staff, and I would like to handle, if we could. Mr. Hansen had a question about the timing of the meeting, and I'd also love to talk about the timing of when commissioners receive notice of projects.
I would like to just stop you right there real
Yep.
quick.
My bad, yeah.
That we need to see if there's any public comment.
Yes, thank you so much.
And then possibly close the public comment.
Yeah, very true. My apologies.
You're fine.
Moving,
Don't worry
moving,
about it.
moving,
I don't
moving
want to be in
forward.
the way if somebody wants to come up and talk. So I'll just be.
We're happy to be with you all night long, but I think we do have a provision that we stop at 10, or no new business after 10. So forgive my haste. Are there any additional public comments that would like to be heard, and do we have any that come in during the meeting electronically? Okay. It appears that we've received no additional electronic public comments, and it appears there are no additional public comments. I think we can close the public comment section. With that, Zach, I think there's a few questions that would be best that are best addressed by staff. I mentioned a couple already, and I think there were some questions, especially around traffic studies and bridge studies and whatnot.
Sure. So from what I wrote down, and I apologize, I'm going to go through these just as I have them. So lighting concerns, the canopy lights. I don't disagree. There are going to be bright lights, facing downward on the canopy. However, we are requiring that 0-foot candle is mandated at the property line. So it has to go down significantly by the time it hits that property line. It has to be 0 there. Concerning the lights on the canopy itself, like around it, I would defer that to the applicant to address that, because I don't see indication of that, but I could be wrong.
Mr. Smallwood, can
Yeah.
I ask you some more information on that topic?
Sure.
On some of our signage requirements, we have lighting requirements that vary according to the time of day. So at certain times of day, they have certain candle watts required. And
Yeah, foot candles.
Yeah, there you go. How does that apply to the canopy? Does it vary? Meaning, business hours are whatever they are, 7 to 11, and then after 11, does the wattage change or the amount of light that's allowed change, like we do with our signage?
In signage, so if it were to be an EMC, yeah, we could require that. We don't have any such code provisions for actual lighting.
Huh.
Yeah. So the gas fumes and the release of the gas fumes, I can't speak to that at all. I would suggest the applicant address that one, if able. Gas leakage, I know that Mr. Astle had brought that up, that there is contingencies within the stormwater drains that capture that runoff and store it for a time. And yeah, so I know that we are aware of it, and we, the Murray City Water, Cottonwood Improvement District, all of those would be working together to make sure that is addressed. So,
Mr. Smallwood, I assume that I don't work in water or drainage, but
me either.
right. So, but those professionals who do spend a lot of time concerned about this area, I believe part of the standards are so that drainage goes toward the drainage system. So it's collected in the drainage system. So anything that's spilt or kept there, once it is cleaned or it rains, it's intended to go into the drainage system, right?
Correct.
That's the purpose of setting up a drainage system.
Correct. Yep. Let's see. So a couple things. The 500-foot buffer that was brought up, that was stated from Eagle Mountain City. That probably wasn't a study, but probably a code requirement from Eagle Mountain City. Murray City doesn't have anything like that on the books.
Can you talk about how a code like that would go on the books?
How common it is?
I don't know how common it is. It's the first I'm hearing of it. So
that says something.
yeah. So if it's something that wants to get pursued, I would recommend that residents reach out to their council people to bring it up as a potential.
I think the
item
point I
for
was trying to make
discussion.
is that this commission would not have the authority to impose that.
Correct, and even if you were able to do that, there are vested rights. Once somebody has applied for the conditional use permit, they are vested under the current code as they have applied, so it wouldn't apply to anybody that has currently applied. So also, Mr. Hansen had mentioned the not receiving a notice. I checked the mailing list to make sure he was not on the mailing list. I did do a calculation real quickly, very rough calculation. He is about 5 feet outside that radius, so he would not have received a
What is the
notification.
radius of the notification?
300 feet.
300 feet.
Yep,
Okay.
as the crow flies. And that would have been, but I will say, I believe Mr. Hansen stated that he's the president of the HOA, and we did send notice to the HOA at a property in Draper. So the HOA did receive notice.
Mr. Hansen talked about a fence over 8 feet tall. Maybe you can talk about why we're talking about a fence at 8 feet, because for what our authority is as a commission.
Yeah, the Murray City Code only allows properties to go, only allows for up to an 8-foot fence, and that is only permitted if the Planning Commission permits it. We don't have taller fences except in very rare circumstances, specifically along the freeway and along the tracks corridor.
Can you talk about the look or make of that fence?
Oh, sure. Masonry fence. It is kind of a concrete fence. I don't want to say it's pure concrete, but it usually has decorative materials. I would speak to probably the applicant on what they probably haven't made the decision on exactly what colors and design it's
And
going
will
to have.
that be submitted to the city once they draw that up, or no?
It's not required to be, we don't have a fence permit requirement, but as part of the conditions of approval, we will see that in their building permit application.
Can you speak to the gas and odor issue? It seems to me that may be somewhat of the reasoning behind the 500-foot thing. Not sure if there's.
Yeah, you need to, let's, again, we want to make sure that all comments are made at the podium.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's anything we can do as a commission to mitigate that.
Honestly, no. I don't have anything in code to mitigate that. I will say that they do have to go through various permits at the federal, state, and local level. I know that they do have to go through the DEQ, which is the Division or Department of Environmental Quality. So there are things that will be addressed as part of that. But at this municipal level and at this land use level, I don't have anything that would address that.
Will you mind talking about the timing of the meeting? Mr. Hansen had a question about why the meeting is happening at this point of the project, and maybe it'd be nice to talk about the notification that
Sure.
commissioners received.
So technically, the public actually gets notice before the Planning Commission gets notice of what's on an agenda. We are required to have noticing to all affected, or the affected neighbors, which is 300 feet affected properties, within 10 days prior to the meeting. You, as the commission, get a packet with an agenda approximately a week before, typically a little bit less than, typically a Friday afternoon at 6 o'clock when I'm walking out the door. So, so you all, as the Planning Commission, don't know what's on an agenda until it's sent to you. Before then, I to address the comment about the development of the project, as you as the commission are well aware, we don't normally see such well-developed plans. Come and Go has done their work. I don't often get a lot of plans that you could see a lot of conditional use permits where we don't get these plans as solid as these are. I would just say that Galloway knows how to develop their package materials. I can't really speak to anything else other than that, because we do, as planning staff and as you as the commission, see things in all sorts of forms.
I think Mr. Hanson maybe was referring to during at this point they maybe they've acquired the property, and once they acquired the property, they've owned it for a period of time, and now why now is the application coming forward? And I think the answer is because they're taking action on the property as opposed to just owning it.
I can't speak to it exactly. Actually, maybe I can. Hold on one second.
Okay.
This isn't the right one. Sorry about that.
And maybe I didn't ask the question. Well, I guess what I'm trying
Well, I understand what you're asking, and I want to address it. So I don't think they technically have even purchased the property yet.
Okay.
According to the property owner affidavit, it's not owned by Come and Go. It's owned by a Nielsen LC. So that's what I wanted to address, is that I don't even think they've closed on the property yet. Typically in these type of conditions, they are in their due diligence period, and they have written into the contract that if the sale, or if they are not approved to do this, that they will cancel the sale. That's typically what happens. So I would say I don't think it's the property probably hasn't even been executed completely yet. So
thank you.
Let's see. There was a question about location to the intersection on the north.
And I think traffic studies kind of came up a couple of times.
Yeah, and I can only speak to the traffic study as I kind of did in the staff report. The executive summary of that, without getting into too much really deep, dark detail, is that the traffic engineer recommended that no changes be made. Commissioner Milkevich will remember we've seen plenty of times where they have asked for changes in traffic flows. For the Vine, for example, asked for a change on State and Vine. So it's actually quite odd that they haven't requested, they haven't recommended anything. They do say that the proposed right in, right out is probably the best option for 9th East. And make no recommendations. They don't see a potential. They don't see any negative impact to a full access on the north. And our city engineer, who's very involved with traffic throughout the entire city, he reads these backwards and forwards, and he agreed, and that you can see it in his conditions as well. And that brings me into the location of the intersection on the north.
Yep.
That was a concern for us at first. We thought it was too close. We measured it though, however, and measured it against our standards, and it does meet city standards for distance from an intersection.
Appreciate that. There were some questions about the number of gas stations and convenience stores proximate to that. And
correct.
I think this is maybe something for us to talk about, that we don't get to decide the types of businesses that go into commercial properties.
And I would appreciate if you also we brought that as residents serving our community. We brought that up as a concern in the pre-meeting.
Correct. Yeah. You are 100% correct. In commercially zoned so I will say that the commission does, to a degree, have a control over what goes on properties. That's through zoning. The zoning at this location, which is neighborhood commercial, has been in effect for a number of years. That's what allowed the car wash to go into this property. And as part of that, the neighborhood commercial allows for gas stations. Now, anybody that purchases a property, as long as they are meeting zoning rules, are allowed to do what they will. Just like I can't ask my neighbor to take down a shed imposing on somebody else's property rights. If there's something allowed in the zoning district, we can't just say, oh, I'm sorry, there's too many. They do their market research. They see that there is a missing need here, and that's typically what drives new gas stations. Any other questions?
I think that covers it for my notes. Do you guys have anything else?
The school bus, sorry, the school bus pickup
Mhm.
on that, in terms of the traffic study, I'm not sure if that was taken into account or whether that could be moved to mitigate some of those fears.
It could probably be moved. I'm not exactly sure where it is. That would be something that would be handled through the school district. And typically, in these types of things, we send notice to the school district as well.
So again, let's keep our comments at the podium. I'll give you another minute if you'd like. Okay. Well, let's keep our comments at the podium. I'm happy to open public comment up if we have any new information that we'd like to share. But great. I think that
So school district drop-offs and pickups aren't stationary. It's not demanded. It's always based on the need and the driver's need to manipulate the bus and pick up the majority of children. So that's always flexible. And it's not done by the city, it's done by the school district.
Correct.
So I just have one more comment. It's honestly, I'm saddened. I'm very sad. I serve on this commission because it's an honor. It's great to be part of the community that I live in. And beyond that, it's been rewarding to see how people in Murray treat each other, how we treat our community and how we treat each other when topics come up. The people on the board work hard to be respectful of our community, and the people in our community have always worked to be respectful of our community. When we come in and insult one board member who used to be on the board, it's an insult to all of us. When we don't know what's going on in other people's lives, everybody on this board does not have advance notice of the topics to make financial decisions around. I've never had advance notice. And people who are making financial decisions are making decisions based on their family needs, which at this point could be medical needs, having other people's lives. So for us to accuse other people of doing things illegal, I feel like it's also accusing us, and I'm saddened by that. I just wanted to make that statement.
I appreciate that. And like I mentioned, that's I wanted to address, and I wanted the public to understand when, as a commission, we received notice. I picked this up and saw this on Saturday, this past Saturday. So I have no reason to believe that anyone else would have received advance notice. That's when I received my notice. So Zach, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mickelson, would you like to come back and address some of these questions? Would you like to, Ms. Noble, would you like another minute for the public comment? We're happy to give it to you. Okay. All right.
Thank you for the chance to come and and address some of these concerns. And as an engineer and a developer and a Utah and a father, I take these seriously, and we try to mitigate all these risks as best we can whenever we come into a community and bring our clients with us. And so as these came up, I tried to write down some items to talk about. The first question there was the illumination question, and I think Zach answered it really well. The 0-foot candles at the property lines, actually very strict requirement. That's pretty stringent, even more stringent than what we see in a lot of other communities. There is no fascia lighting on the canopy, so that's not going to happen. I want to talk a minute about the vapor situation. So a lot of people don't understand how that works. So
1 second, I think we may have
just adjusting. Oh, sorry. There you go. When a fuel truck comes in and the ports are opened up for fuel to be put into the tanks, there's another hose that's also connected to the vent from the tanks. And as fuel enters into the fuel tanks, air leaves. That air leaves through a different hose and is captured in the tank, the fueling tanker.
So there's not an open exhaust pipe, is what
That
you're
is
saying.
correct. In fact, the vents that you see at fueling stations are to let air into the tank as that process happens, not to vent vapors out of the tank. This is called a stage 1 vapor recovery system, and all the come and goes have this. So some of the other older fueling stations may not. I know one of the community members here noted some other things about spills. Each one of those fueling ports has what's called a spill bucket. And they anticipate that some fuel might be spilled during that operation. There's actually a spill bucket there to capture those spills, right? So every precaution that can be taken is being taken. One more thing I want to bring up here too is at each fueling station there's what's called hanging hardware. Okay, this is the pumps are not at where you fill up your car. Those are called dispensers. Okay, and as the pumps pump fuel out of the tank to the dispensers, there's what's called hanging hardware. Okay, the hanging hardware is the nozzle that you're using. The types of nozzles that these guys use are Husky XS nozzles, and they shut off when the pump shuts off, the gas tank is full, the lever is open before the pump is turned on, or the leak detector has not completed its test cycle. And then one other thing is that if the nozzle is dropped, there's a valve in there that shuts that off. It's a spill guard. So the hanging hardware that's being installed with these newer fueling stations is really state of the art. It's not the gas pump of 20 years ago. Probably not even the gas pumps you and I learned to use when we were young and we were learning to fill up a car. They're a lot more safe. And so, one thing I would say is, the concept that there's more gas stations around, maybe they're not as safe as this one will be, and still in your community. So, let's see.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
about like the concern of just smelling the vapors over time? You really can't mitigate that, but you're saying that there's venting on when it's, pumped into the tank, but not when somebody's putting it in the.
Yeah, when someone's filling their car up with gas, you see that there's like a little shroud on there, and there's valves and stuff that keep and actually also on cars, I believe. I'm gonna get this wrong. I think it's since like 1994 they've actually had to have certain valves installed in the fueling nozzle to keep those vapors from coming out too. And so there's a lot of stuff that's being done in order to prevent that. I would think probably that your greatest exposure to that is when you're filling up your own car. I drive a car that has a gasoline. That's what it uses. So it's probably my greatest exposure too.
So it may be that recent technology is mitigating some of those concerns that I have had and people are having about that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Let's see. Oh, another thing I want to bring up too on that same spill issue is that Come and Go actually owns their own fuel transportation company. It's called Solar Transport. So they're not just relying on whoever's the lowest bid guy to come out there and fill up their tanks. They own it, they regulate it, and it's part of the corporation that owns that Come and Go owns. So it's very much more strictly enforced, the way the training of these employees as they're dropping off fuel, how they do it, procedures. It's much more carefully undertaken than I think probably most other fueling stations are. The fence on the east side, there were some questions about what kind of fence that might be. Right now, we're speccing what's called Olympus Precast. You see these all over the Wasatch Front. They're really good looking walls, textured, and usually have some color to them, and they look really nice, really nice. And 8 foot is a big wall. I'm 6'2", and it's gonna be it's a big wall. You're not gonna hop over an 8 foot wall. So
can you stated on the east wall, is it safe to assume the south wall would be the same material? South
Yeah,
face.
same material. I haven't looked into the zoning requirements for setback or how high that might be, or there might be some variation in the height on the south side. So we'll have to look at that and work on it with staff, but it would be the same material.
That's a good point. I think in our conditions, we're saying we want it to be 8 foot on both sides.
We will, I think, but it's subject to UDOT and other statute
Yeah.
that requires.
One thing to keep in mind is that is the high side of the site.
Mhm.
And so you may be stepping that up as you're coming along there.
Mhm.
And so just something to note.
There was a question about parking stalls. I think there's 19 or 21
That's
parking
right.
stalls.
Yeah, that was next on my list too. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and reduce those parking stalls from 21 to 19, and that's basically just code driven. So
So explain that. You're required to have that many based on the square footage of the building, or yeah. So that's a Murray requirement. They have to based on the square footage of the building, you have to have a certain number of parking stalls.
correct. Yeah.
And so they may like to have less and have a bigger building to sell more products in.
Yeah, that's usually the fight. The battle we're fighting is trying to get enough, or trying. We're not proposing as many, and they're trying to make us put in more. That's
Right.
usually the battle we're fighting. But
Yeah.
this is the opposite. So, the spa to the south. I just want to point out that the vacuums that are on site are probably pretty loud when they're operating, and in this case, that would be buffered by the building and the wall itself. So I would submit that you're probably going to end up with a quieter place than before. I haven't measured that, but yeah, that's probably going to be quieter. And then I think that I don't know for sure, but I would assume that there's nothing that would prevent me from driving over there and putting coins in the wall and washing my car or vacuuming my car right now. So it's kind of a 24/7 operation as it is.
What will your hours of operation be?
24/7.
Okay.
But with better lighting and better separation with the wall and the buffering.
I
from
know
the
we
building.
touched on this, but maybe I missed it. You can't regulate the wattage of the light, over that 24-hour cycle.
You can. It's expensive to do it that way, and I mean, I think as long as we're meeting the 0 at the property line code, it feels like that would be sufficient.
So
That's really all that I have to offer, unless you have any additional questions. I do want to thank the council for listening to our presentation tonight and considering our project. And as I said before, we're excited to be part of Murray and get to know the neighbors. And I think you'll find that it'll be a good addition.
Any additional questions by the commission?
I have 2 questions, but I think they're going to be directed to staff.
Okay. Great. Well,
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Hello.
Maybe 2 questions and a comment. We'll see.
Sure.
So 2 questions around lighting and hours of operation. Do we have in our code hours of operation for this zone?
No.
Okay, so that's what it is right now. And then lighting. I know it's not in our code for this area, but what are our options? And I know he says it's an expense to the applicant, but is it within our preview to say we'd like to have the lighting reduced from midnight to 4 in the morning or something? Is that something we could write in the conditions, or is that
Because I don't have any standard for it.
there's no standard to compare to?
Right. Yeah. So the 0 foot at the 0 foot candles at the property line is how we've treated it in the past.
Any other questions for staff?
So then my one comment, this is the distance between a gas station and residential areas come up before. And as residents, we've had concerns before. So it might be something good that the residents look into talking to city and city council about adding that to some of the verbiage in some of our zoning areas, because currently it isn't.
Sure.
So,
And I think whenever there's significant public interest in a project, I think it's a good idea to explain what our role is and where our authority begins and ends, if that makes sense. And I think and where what the city councils does. You know, we may all agree that we like to have 500 or 1,000 feet between a gas station, or 10,000 between a gas station and residential. The fact that I agree with you about that, or I think that, I couldn't propose a motion and bind the city to that. It would have to go to the city council, and they would have to do that. And so, you know, I think that would be a wonderful thing for us to talk to our city council representatives about in the future. But I think that's something to consider. And the other thing I want to probably if you can touch on it again, is in the role that we're in, we, by state statute, in a conditional use situation, the statute says we're supposed to ascertain if it's a reasonable expectation. And so what I've been weighing in my mind are the environmental concerns, which I share. I think that I don't think anybody. I certainly personally wouldn't argue that a gas station is necessarily a clean use of property. I think that there are concerns. Around that. The state and the county and the city have ordinances and we have procedures. And you know, I think that might be, and the representation that Mr. Mickelson has made is that this organization complies with those and it complies with those fully. If they don't, then the state and the county and the city will deal with that. The other for me is quality of life for residents. You know, for me, the zero candles is huge. And I want to thank Mr. Mickelson for defining that for us. That was a very good definition. And so how this ought to look if this was approved is when over that fence, zero candles. And so what I'm weighing is this are they being reasonable? Is this a reasonable request in light of the concerns that the residents have, which I understand those concerns. Commissioners will make some more comments, but I do think it's good to kind of stop and share that we don't get to decide. You know, we can't arbitrarily say, well, we have too many of one type of business in an area and get to do that, or get to decide arbitrarily to change the usage of zones. That has to go through a legislative process, basically.
Correct.
Sorry, Zach.
No, you're good.
Any other questions for staff? All right. With that, I think we'll open it up to the commission for discussion. Is there any discussion amongst the commission? Okay. Well,
I can make a motion if you.
We'll entertain a motion then. We're pretty late in the process. We're at this point, we're in a motion, so I apologize.
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission approve a conditional use permit and grant design approval to allow the construction of the proposed Come and Go gas station and convenience store on the property located at 6029 South, 900 East, subject to conditions 1 through 15, with an added 2 conditions that will be that they remove the lighted logo signage on the east side of the canopy. And the other condition is that the applicant shall work with staff to install a fence up to 8 feet masonry along the south property line.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yep.
I think condition number 11 already addresses the east-facing illuminate.
It does.
Yes,
Sign?
you're correct.
Yep.
And then condition 14, maybe do we need to add a condition, or can we just add 2? Condition 14?
I propose to make an amendment to number 14.
The reason,
Oh, go ahead.
since I've made a motion, I'm not sure what we can do here, but
Yep.
You can amend your motion.
okay, I want to amend it. Let me just explain before I amend it why I'm doing a second condition for the fence. I think that I think it would be better to say work with the Planning Commission to do a fence up to 8 feet so they can determine what the best fence would be along that property line.
Do you mean staff or commission?
Planning division, sorry.
So you want to separate the east fence would be 8 feet across the board masonry, and the south fence might be a staggered fence, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I appreciate the explanation. I agree.
Okay. So,
Um,
so can I just clarify my
Why don't you
condition?
amend your motion?
Yeah,
You want me to just do the whole thing again?
Yep.
if you'd like. It would probably help Jamie while she's doing minutes.
Yep.
Here we go. I would like to make a motion that the Planning Commission approve a conditional use permit and grant design approval to allow the construction of the proposed Come and Go gas station and convenience store on the property located at 6029 South, 900 East, subject to conditions 1 through 15, and adding another condition that will read, the applicant shall work with the planning division to install an up to an 8-foot masonry fence along the south property line.
Okay, we have a motion
Perfect.
to approve a conditional use permit and grant design approval to allow the construction of the proposed Come and Go gas station and convenience store on the property located at 6029 South, 900 East, subject to the 15 stated conditions with an additional 16 condition, which encompasses the south fence, and we'll have the applicant work with the Murray City Planning staff for approval. Do we have a second for this motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Pearson and a second by Commissioner Richards. Zach, will you do a roll call?
Yep.
Vote.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkevich,
Yes.
and Chair Lowry.
A very reluctant yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, we have completed our agenda items. I will ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:35 p.m.
We have a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Commissioner Pearson. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.